A good story helps us to focus. It helps make learning a new language not a boring task, but an interesting discovery. Today's story is about the importance of focus, and it's also a perfect opportunity for you to improve your English in an engaging way. Stay with us. There is a comfortable lie we tell ourselves every day. It's the lie that being busy is the same thing as making progress. We fill our days with small, safe tasks, feeling the relief of crossing items off a list, while the most important, most daunting task stares back at us from the bottom of the page. But what if this task we avoid the most is the only one that truly matters? The only one that can unlock our full potential and save everything we've built? This is the story of Grace and her charming bookstore, a beautiful boat that was silently sinking. Grace's bookstore in Cold Spring was her dream materialized. A refuge with creaking wooden floors, the smell of old paper and fresh coffee in the air, and comfortable armchairs that invited customers to get lost in other lives. For Grace, every book sold was a small victory, a human connection in an increasingly digital world. But beneath the surface of charm and passion, there was a slow, silent leak. Sales were declining each quarter, a consequence of the relentless competition from online giants and the shift in consumer habit. Grace's boat, her beloved dream, was slowly filling with water, threatened not by a sudden storm, but by a gradual, persistent decline. Confronted with this fundamental problem, Grace became a master of active procrastination. She knew, somewhere in the back of her mind, that the solution involved a daunting modernization, a new inventory system, an online store. But, terrified of the task, she focused her energy on dozens of other things. She would spend weeks rearranging the shelves, hours designing new bookmarks, days planning small events. She was busy, frantically busy, polishing the brass and cleaning the deck, while, silently, the water rose around her ankles. But the brass had never been shinier, and the boat had never been closer to sinking. Some frustration, finally, overcame the fear of the main task. Grace realized that, despite all her hustle, her efforts were not yielding results. She swallowed her pride and scheduled a meeting with Mr. Miller, a retired bank manager who offered volunteer consulting for the town's small businesses. In the library's small meeting room, Grace laid out her battle plan. With a forced optimism, she presented her long list of initiatives: the new bookmark system, the poetry festival she had organized, the complete reorganization of the children's section. She spoke with the passion and exhaustion of someone who believes they are doing all the necessary hard work. Mr. Miller listened to it all, patiently, without interrupting, his fingers laced together on the table. He saw her dedication, but he also saw what she refused to see. When she finished, expecting praise for her effort, he did not validate her list. Instead, he looked at her with kind but piercing eyes, and delivered his direct diagnosis, the only truth that mattered. "Grace," he said calmly, "you have a beautiful boat, but it has a small hole." Grace blinked, the metaphor hanging in the air between them. Mr. Miller continued, his voice calm but relentless in its logic. "You are spending all of your time polishing the brass and cleaning the deck. These are visible tasks that make you feel productive. But the only task that matters is the hardest one, taking the boat to dry dock and fixing the hole. It's expensive, it's scary, but it's the only thing that will keep the boat from sinking." His words acted like a harsh light, illuminating all the dark corners Grace had been avoiding. The hole in the hull wasn't a vague problem. It had names. It was the paralyzing fear of the financial investment, the intimidation of technology she didn't understand, the dread of trying something big and failing publicly, again. And in that moment, the truth hit her with the force of a wave. All her exhaustion, all her productivity, wasn't real work. It was the most elaborate and exhausting form of procrastination. She wasn't saving the boat. She was just beautifully distracting herself while it sank. With a painful clarity, she looked at Mr. Miller and understood. She needed to stop polishing the brass and start fixing the hull. Fixing the hull began with a signature on a piece of paper, the terrifying act of committing to the loan at Mr. Miller's bank. The following months were a storm of learning. Grace traded reorganizing books for implementing software, and planning events for e-commerce tutorials. The learning curve was steep and frustrating. There were nights when the old Grace, the one who preferred arranging shelves to facing website code, wanted to give up. Then, on a rainy Tuesday, it happened. An electronic chime she had never heard in her store, the sound of her first online order, coming from a town 300 kilometers away. It wasn't a big sale, but it was a sign of life. Soon, the new inventory system helped her make smarter book purchases, based on data, not just intuition. The hull was being fixed. The boat wasn't just floating, it was starting to navigate again. Months later, the bookstore was transformed. It was a thriving mix of local charm and digital reach, where loyal customers still browsed books in the armchairs, while shipping boxes waited to be sent across the country. Grace was busier than ever, but now, with the right kind of work. She was no longer just staying afloat, she was charting a new course. Grace's journey and her boat, that sailed again, teaches us a fundamental truth about real productivity. The most difficult task on our list isn't just another item. Often, it is the foundation upon which everything else rests. Tackling it first not only solves the biggest problem, but it frees up an immense amount of mental energy and clarity for all the other tasks. Her story is an invitation to be honest with ourselves and to identify what is the hole in the boat in our own life. What is the crucial task we are avoiding, hiding behind a to-do list of smaller, easier chores? Grace's lesson is to have the courage to stop polishing the brass and begin the real repair. If this story about the courage to tackle the hardest task first resonated with you, leave a comment below. Like the video so this message can find others who are busy but are not making progress. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that teach us to navigate life's challenges with more wisdom. Until next time, stop polishing and start fixing.